All right, so get this. Today we're diving deep into all those kind of secret signals, those subtle hints that a woman might be interested even if she's like trying to play it cool.
Ooh, this is gonna be good. It's like we're gonna be cracking a code or something.
Totally. And our like guidebook, I guess, is this piece called Five Signs a Woman Likes You but is Trying Not to Show It. Sometimes I swear I need a secret decoder ring for this stuff.
Huh. Well, you're definitely not alone there. It really is fascinating how people kind of express interest without being, super obvious about it.
Right, it's like a whole secret language.
It is.
Okay, so the first sign our source mentions is increased attention. So basically the idea is that if a woman's interested, she's really going to listen and remember details, even tiny things you might not think are important.
Yeah, it's more than just listening though, right? Think
Yeah.
about it. When we're really interested in someone, we just naturally pay more attention to them. It's like our brain is saying, hey, this person's important, file this away. There's actually some pretty cool research on this too. Studies have shown that people remember more about people they're attracted to. So yeah, increased attention, it's definitely something to watch for.
It's funny you say that because I actually remember this one time. Okay, maybe I'll save that story for later. But you're right. It makes sense that our brains would like prioritize information about someone we're attracted to. So it's not just about one conversation, right? It's about her consistently showing she's paying attention.
Exactly. Consistency is key.
Hmm.
Think about it. If she remembers your favorite coffee order from weeks ago, or brings up some random story you mentioned, those are good signs you're on her mind.
Yeah, good point. It's like she's filing away all these little details because she's genuinely interested.
Right. And our source even mentions that she might start looking for common ground, like suddenly mentioning she loves hiking after you talk about a trip you took. It's like she's testing the waters, seeing if your worlds align.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like she's dropping little hints like, hey, we have this in common.
Totally. And, all this kind of goes back to that basic human need connection. We're drawn to people we feel a connection with, and those little attempts to find common ground, it's a way of testing the waters, seeing if there's potential for something more.
Wow, that's really interesting. It's not just about trying to like impress each other. It's about this deeper need to connect.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving on. This next sign can be tricky. Body language. I feel like this one's a minefield because everyone's body language is so different, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like one person's friendly touch could be another person's like, get away from me.
Right. So how do we even begin to decode this stuff?
The key is to look for clusters of cues, not just one thing by itself. A quick glance might not mean much. But if she's making eye contact, leaning in when you speak, maybe even mirroring your movements, that's different.
Ooh, mirroring. I've heard of that. Tell me more about how that works.
Well, it's usually subconscious, but when we're attracted to someone, we tend to subtly copy their body language, their posture, hand gestures, even their tone. Psychologists call it the chameleon effect, and it helps build rapport, making us more likable.
That's so cool. Like our bodies are giving us away before we even realize it. So mirroring, that's a pretty good sign.
It can be, especially with other positive signs, but it's important to consider, the context. Some people are just naturally more expressive.
Right. Don't read into every little thing. It's the big picture. What are some other body language cues we should watch for?
Well, think about proximity. Does she stand or sit closer to you than others? Physical closeness usually means comfort and a desire for, intimacy.
Okay, yeah. And I'm guessing eye contact's another big one.
Oh, huge. Eye contact is super powerful. It can convey so much, from interest and attraction to shyness and nervousness.
Wait, nervousness? Isn't confidence supposed to be more attractive? I'd think if she's nervous, that's a bad sign.
See, that's what's so interesting. Sometimes being nervous around someone is actually good. It means they have an effect on you, that you care what they think. We don't get nervous around people we don't care about, right?
True. I guess it depends how that nervousness comes across. Like blushing and giggling, that's probably cute. But sweating and stammering, maybe not so much.
Yeah, it's the overall vibe. And remember, nervousness can show up in different ways. Some people get quiet, others get super talkative.
Okay, so I'm seeing how these signs can all be kind of connected, like intense eye contact, but she's playing with her hair. Maybe she's interested but nervous. It's a whole puzzle.
It is. And like any good puzzle, it takes some observation and deduction. But we're just getting started.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What other pieces of the puzzle are we going to uncover?
Before we move on, I think it's worth going back to something we talked about before, that whole thing about women sometimes hiding their feelings. Why do you think that is? What makes it hard for some women to just be upfront about, being interested?
That's a good question. I guess part of it is just like societal expectations, right? There's still this pressure on women to be more, I don't know, reserved. Let the guy make the first move.
Yeah, definitely. And it ties into another thing, fear of rejection. Putting yourself out there emotionally, it can be scary,
Hmm.
especially if you don't know if the other person feels the same way.
Oh, totally. Rejection's the worst. I think everyone, no matter who you are, has felt that, like, vulnerability. When you're putting your heart out there.
Exactly. And for some women, that fear of rejection, it might be even stronger because of past experiences. Or even just societal messages, about what it means to be desirable.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like they're trying to protect themselves from getting hurt. But there's also the whole wanting to see if the guy's interested first, right? Like maybe she's dropping hints to see how you react before she reveals her own feelings.
Totally. It's a way of, like, testing the waters. Seeing if the attraction is mutual before taking a risk.
Okay, so we've got societal expectations, fear of rejection, and wanting to see if the guy is interested. It's complicated, which makes me even more curious about this next sign, playful teasing.
Ah, yes. The art of playful banter. This one can be fun, but it definitely needs some, well, finesse.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I actually do have a story about this one time, but we'll save that for another deep dive. So how can we tell if it's playful teasing versus, just being mean?
It all comes down to the tone and intention. Playful teasing is lighthearted, fun, never hurtful. Think of it like a little nudge, creating a playful connection, testing the boundaries. It's about pushing each other's buttons in a way that makes a spark, not a fire.
Okay, so it's like a dance, I guess. You're flirting, but keeping it light. So if she's being sarcastic or, like, putting you down, that's a bad sign.
Definitely. It's all about reading the room, paying attention to her demeanor. If she's smiling, laughing, making eye contact while teasing you, that's good. But if she seems tense, angry, then yeah, back off.
Good advice. Playful teasing check. What's next?
This one might seem obvious, but it's often missed. Initiating contact.
You mean like she's the one texting first, suggesting to hang out, that kind of thing?
Exactly. Remember what we were saying about men usually making the first move? So if a woman is consistently reaching out, making plans, finding reasons to talk to you, well, that says a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. It shows effort, that she values your company. It takes guts to put yourself out there like that, especially when you're first getting to know someone.
For sure. It's a sign she's not just waiting for you to do something. She's actively trying to connect.
Okay, so we've talked about increased attention, body language, playful teasing, initiating contact, even nervousness. That's a lot of signs. Is there anything else before we wrap up?
It's funny you should ask that because there's one super important thing we haven't really talked about. It applies to all these signs. It's the idea of
Yeah.
individual differences in context. We got to remember, everyone expresses themselves in their own way.
Yeah.
What's a sure sign for one person might be like totally normal for someone else.
Right, like maybe she's just naturally touchy-feely, or maybe where she's from, eye contact isn't as common. We can't assume every little thing means she's, like, madly in love.
Exactly. It's about the whole picture, how consistent her behavior is, her personality, background, all that. And context matters too, right? A playful touch at a party is way different than at work.
Okay, so don't jump to conclusions based on just one thing. Look for patterns, think about the situation, and, most importantly, don't be afraid to
Communicate. Honestly, talking to each other directly, that's the best tool we have in any relationship, especially when, romance is involved.
It's funny you say that because I think a lot of people, myself included, we overthink all these little signs and miss chances to just be straight up. Why do you think we're so scared to just say how we feel?
I think it comes back to that fear of rejection. Putting your feelings out there is scary, so sometimes it feels easier to just hope they'll get the hint. But honestly, talking directly, it's the best way to avoid misunderstandings and build a real connection.
I totally agree. And those awkward conversations, they can be the best ones. I remember this one time. Okay, maybe I'll save that story. But the point is, even if it doesn't lead to romance, at least you were real, and that's always good.
Exactly. Most people appreciate honesty. It shows confidence and respect. Plus, it saves everyone from guessing and possibly getting hurt later.
So how do we actually have these conversations? Any tips for making it less, awkward?
First, pick the right time and place. Don't just spring it on her out of nowhere, like at a bar or when she's busy with work. Find a time when you can both relax and talk.
Right, like maybe over coffee or a walk in the park, somewhere you can have a real conversation, no distractions.
Exactly. And when you do talk, be clear about what you want. You don't need some big romantic gesture. Just say something like, Hey, I've really liked hanging out, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in going on a date sometime.
Simple and to the point.
Right. And be ready for any answer. She might be thrilled and say yes. She might need time to think. Or she might not be interested. And that's okay. What matters is that you put yourself out there and were honest.
So pay attention to the signs, but don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Trust your gut, be respectful, and if you're feeling it, go for it.
Yeah. And remember, even if this doesn't turn into something romantic, these communication skills, they help everywhere. Friendships, family, even work.
Such a good point. This isn't just about dating, it's about connecting with everyone better. This has been a super insightful deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about those subtle signs, and even more about just talking to each other directly.
Glad to hear it. It's always cool to explore these things about how we connect.
Before we go, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. We talked about romantic attraction, but what are other ways people show interest or connection? Think about your friends, family, even people at work. You'll start to see those little signs everywhere.
For sure. The world's full of unspoken messages, and the more we pay attention, the better we understand each other.
So keep your eyes open, stay curious, and remember, talking directly is always a good move.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep diving deep.
Catch you on the next deep dive.